Why
What
should
are
the
Guad's
university
next
be
steps?
obligated to provide food to people who've taken over a building?
To allow it to be brought in, I mean, well, I guess it's ultimately a question of what kind of community and obligation Columbia feels it has to its students. Do you want students to die of dehydration and starvation or get severely ill, even if they disagree with you?
So it seems like you're sort of saying, we want to be revolutionaries, we want to take over this building. Now would you please bring us food and water?
Ain't nothing changed, nothing new here to see. This ain't nothing but some political maneuvering.
America.
Welcome to the eulogy, eat it up. It's called political buffoonery.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome to This Week in DUMBmocracy, where we showcase some of the dumbest newsmakers of the week. Columbia was under siege, and the police had to be called in to break it all up. We're going to talk about some of the scenes from earlier in the day yesterday from the occupation of Hamilton Hall by some really dumb protesters, if their press conference was any indication, by the way. But before we get into that, please subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any other shows. And if you like what you see and hear in this or any other video on the channel, be sure to smash that thumbs up button, like, comment, share the show with your friends, all that good stuff, because all that feeds the YouTube algorithm. Thanks so much, guys, for spreading the word out about the channel. And for anybody new to the channel, I hope this video earns your subscription as we talk about some of the scenes from what happened in Columbia before the police had to move in to clear out Hamilton Hall from those that broke into it. Before I play this part of the video, I want you guys to understand I'm not the news guy. I'm not here to explain to you what happened overnight with the NYPD or the story about the wife of a Hamas terrorist being in this Hamilton Hall space with these protesters that illegally broke into it, criminally trespassed into the building. I'm not here to tell you the facts of all that. There are tons of news stories out there you can go and look at. There are tons of videos out there that will explain it to you. I'm not that guy. I'm the guy that's going to talk about the stupidity of things going on during these protests and to point, laugh, and mock at the buffoonery of it all. That said, we have this press conference from those occupying Hamilton Hall that broke in yesterday, explaining why they're doing what they're doing and what they want. And let's just say, for smart people, they're pretty freaking dumb.
So I'm going to begin by just repeating the information shared in the press release last night, and then I can share a few updates that have taken place since then. I'm not giving my name. A number of students have received threats to their families who have participated in press, so I'm choosing to remain anonymous for now.
Now that seems counterproductive. You're a protester. You want people to know what your message is. Why not say who you are? Stand up. Be counted. Thankfully, the internet did a lot of sleuthing for us. So let's unmask this wannabe anonymous spokesperson. So thanks to the internet, we found out that this press conference spokesperson is someone named Johannah King-Slutzky. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right. It's a really unfortunate name. Apparently, she's a graduate student at Columbia. And let's take a look at her bio really quickly here. My dissertation is on fantasies of limitless energy in the transatlantic romantic imagination from 1760 to 1860.
Was that English?
My goal is to write a prehistory of metabolic rift, Marxist term for the disruption of energy circuits caused by industrialization under capitalism. So we know what we're dealing with right now, don't we?
Radical leftist affiliation.
I am particularly interested in theories of the imagination and poetry as interpreted through a Marxian lens in order to update and propose an alternative to historicist ideological critiques of the romantic imagination.
Check this out, though. First of all, you're throwing too many big words at me. Okay, now, because I don't understand them, I'm going to take them as disrespect. Watch your mouth.
Prior to joining Columbia, I worked as a political strategist for leftist and progressive causes and remain active in the higher education labor movement.
Whoa. Here I come. Oh, here I come. Oh.
This is far left cringe if I've ever seen it before in my life. There's other information out there about Johannah, if I may be so familiar. She does have a Twitter account, which they're protected right now. Her LinkedIn was taken down. The only way we got this bio, by the way, we had to go to the Wayback Machine because this bio was also taken down by Columbia. It was like she was scrubbing her internet history to avoid being outed as one of these protesters. But if you are a far left and progressive person, again, stand up and be counted. So now that we've gotten to know Johannah a little bit, let's see what she has to say on behalf of these criminal trespassers who broke into Hamilton Hall on Columbia's campus.
After 206 days of genocide and over 34,000 Palestinian martyrs, Columbia community members took back Hamilton Hall just after midnight.
To take back something means that it had to have been yours to begin with. Last I checked, Columbia University is a private institution, which means that they probably own their land, they own their buildings. So automatically we're starting out on a false premise, taking back. They seem to think that they own Hamilton Hall, the students there that are illegally trespassing and committed, I guess, breaking and entering. They claim to own it. I don't get that at all, but okay, cool story. Let's see what else you got.
An autonomous group reclaimed Hind Hall, previously known as Hamilton Hall, in honor of Hind Rajab, a Gazan martyr murdered at the hands of the genocidal Israeli state at the age of just 6 years old.
Okay, so it's unfortunate that a 6-year-old had to pass away in what's going on in Gaza between Israel and Hamas. I don't know the story of this young man. I'm not going to pretend to know the story, and I'm certainly sorry he's passed. But again, you don't own the building. You don't own the naming rights. I don't think you can rename it after him as much as you want to commemorate him. And I appreciate you want to commemorate the life of a young person like this. But this is the wrong way to do it. Committing criminal acts, not necessarily a good way to remember someone. In fact, the criminal act overshadows the remembrance.
This escalation represents the next generation of the 1968, 1985, and 1992 student movements which Columbia once repressed yet celebrates today.
She wants to compare this movement to other ones from the past. 1968, I believe, was a protest against racism and the Vietnam War, and I think it was also about building a gymnasium. 1985, I believe, is a divestment movement against South Africa, which ultimately did happen. I think maybe did she mention 1972? 1972 were also anti-war protests. Whoops, need to make a correction here. Johannah didn't mention 1972, although that part was true. She mentioned the 1992 protest, which concerned Columbia's plans to turn the theater where Malcolm X was killed into a biomedical complex. Now back to the video. There were certainly other ones out there as well, but to attach yourself to anti-war protests, protesting American action, to protesting Israeli action, or the divestment of South Africa, which was clearly an apartheid state, not necessarily comparable. They want to make that argument. Fine, let them make that argument. But I think objectively speaking, not the same thing. But a good move to try to attach yourself to more legitimate movements.
Protesters have voiced their intention to remain at Hind Hall until Columbia concedes to Quad's 3 demands, which are divestment, financial transparency, and amnesty.
So Quad 3 is another protest. That's the tent city, I guess, that's going on there. So they are separating themselves out into different factions, I guess. Is it Lord of the Flies on Columbia's campus now? We got Quad 3, we got Hamilton Hall. I mean, who's got the conch is what I want to know here. Who are we speaking for? What does this even matter, this press conference? Does it have any authority behind it whatsoever? I'm not getting it, but listen, we're on this crazy train. Let's keep rolling.
Resistance is justified in the movement for liberation. Liberators acting in solidarity with Palestine continue to hold themselves to a higher standard than Columbia. I cannot stress this enough, a higher standard than Columbia.
So we're fashioning ourselves as liberators. That's what you're going with here. What are you liberating about, I'm trying to figure this out. You're liberating what exactly at Colombia that's going to affect Gaza, or is going to affect Israeli policy, or is going to affect American policy vis-a-vis these places? You're liberating what exactly? The grass on the quad? The building? What are you liberating? This is wonderful, fanciful delusion. These people clearly think they're more important than what they actually are in the grand scheme of things here.
This university has repeatedly endangered its students by instituting a police state with military-style checkpoints, repressing and isolating students on campus, calling armed riot cops for the largest mass arrests on campus since 1968, and weaponizing food insecurity and houselessness in order to escalate and use as leverage in negotiations.
Yeah, and whose fault is that, huh, Francis?
Houselessness, insecurity, it sounds so horrible, doesn't it? Basically, it means we can't get food while we're occupying this building, even though we have probably campus meal plans and things like that. I remember those days being on campus and having a meal plan and having, rules to live by when you're in the dorms. I guess they're not living up to their obligations, so they're being threatened with houselessness and food insecurity. Translation: we want to stay in our dorms and we want to have our food. Well, if you want all that, maybe don't break into a campus building. Just saying, you want to play Liberator, you want to play Protest, you want to play Revolutionary? These are the games you play. This is what comes with the games, okay?
Colombia has forced protesters to escalate by contributing to a genocide while refusing to follow the baseline standards of conduct that make negotiations possible.
You made us do this. You are escalating, so therefore we're escalating. You're not talking to us and giving in to our terrorist-like demands on behalf of a movement that supports a terrorist organization. Therefore, we're going to break your stuff and we're going to criminally trespass. Cool. That's the game you want to play? The NYPD showed you what happens. In fact, I think Columbia students finally learned a lesson.
The more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out.
Like what you see so far? Go ahead and smash that thumbs up button. Also, leave us a comment and tell us what you're thinking. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another show. So already you see, this person, Johannah, she's in way over her head. But now she's going to be taking questions from the press. And one of them is about that whole mention of food insecurity. As you'll see from this exchange with a reporter, yeah, that's all bullshit.
Why should the university be obligated to provide food to people who've taken over a building?
That's a good question.
Well, first of all, we're saying that they're obligated to provide food to students who pay for a meal plan here.
But you mentioned that there was a request that food and water be brought in, unless I misunderstood.
To allow it to be brought in, I mean, well, I guess it's ultimately a question of what kind of community and obligation Columbia feels it has to its students. Do you want students to die of dehydration and starvation or get severely ill, even if they disagree with you? If the answer is no, then you should allow basic, I mean, it's crazy to say because we're on an Ivy League campus, but this is like basic humanitarian aid we're asking for. Like, could people please have a glass of water?
I have no response to this. There are clearly places to go eat at Columbia to fulfill that obligation. They are providing locations. They're called cafeterias, by the way. It's a new concept, maybe for you smart people, where you can go and get your food. You can pay for it through, I guess, your student ID, get your meal plan taken care of, get your food taken care of. Go to the cafeteria. But no, you have chosen to break into a building, smash up the property, and stay in there illegally against the will of the owner in order to prove your point, which again is going to accomplish what exactly? Nothing in the grand scheme of things. And you're over-dramatizing this now. Is that even a word? Over-dramatize? I guess, let's say it's a word. You're making big drama about this point by saying people are going to starve and become dehydrated and become ill. They've been in the building maybe half a day at this point. Maybe, well, it's definitely less than 24 hours because they broke in at midnight yesterday. So we're worried about dehydration and starvation at this point? Are you freaking kidding me? The only one's not living up to your obligations is you. You're the ones not living up to your obligations to be students, to respect the campus, to respect the property there, to fulfill your obligation as students. You're not doing that. So why are you expecting Columbia to just Uber in food to you and make sure that everybody's well fed and well taken care of? This is limousine liberalism at its finest. These are people who don't really care about struggle. They don't know what struggle is. They're at Columbia. They're at an Ivy League institution. They don't know what real struggle is for everyday people, let alone people suffering in Israel and Gaza. Come on. This is basically cosplay protesting.
They did put themselves in that very deliberately, in that situation and in that position. So it seems like you're sort of saying, we want to be revolutionaries, we want to take over this building, now would you please bring us food and water? And
Nobody's asking them to bring anything. We're asking them to not violently stop us from bringing in basic humanitarian aid.
Which, by the way, has not been happening at all. So this is a solution in search of a problem. They're trying to make it out like, oh, these people at Columbia are so horrible to us, they're going to violently prevent us from eating and drinking, when that has not happened at all. It's like these anti-Trump people that talk about Donald Trump's going to end democracy when he was president for 4 years, and that didn't happen. It's the same sort of delusion coming from these buffoons.
They're stopping the delivery of food.
We are looking for a commitment from them that they will not stop it
But
violently.
they haven't stopped it yet.
I don't know to what extent it has been attempted, but we're looking for a commitment.
She looks like a big idiot.
That's just the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Well, we don't know if they're going to violently stop us from getting food, and we don't know if it's happened or not, but we want them to say that they won't do it. Are you freaking kidding me? Oh my goodness. This is just complete delusion. First of all, these people are BS buffoons. I talk about that in my book, which is right here, Schnooks, Crooks, Lies, and Scoundrels, a field guide to identifying political buffoons, available right now on Amazon, at Barnes & Noble, and other online bookstores. They should have read it. It should have been on their book list for their classes. When we talk about BS buffoons, we're talking about people who are overconfident in their skills and are simply incompetent at actually doing it. This woman, Johannah, she's not capable of maintaining this press conference. She's more akin to like Baghdad Bob from the Iraqi conflict, saying everything's okay as the bombs are being dropped in Baghdad. We're dealing with all these issues, these horrible people at Columbia. It's so disgusting what they're doing to us. It's delusion. It's narcissism as well. There's so many categories in the book that they fall into. I can't name them all. But needless to say, they're in way over their head. And clearly they learned a lesson after the NYPD came to Hamilton Hall to truly liberate it from these buffoons. But listen, that's just my opinion on this whole thing. Let me know what you guys think. And as always, please subscribe to the channel, like and share the video with your friends, all that good stuff. I'll be in the comments waiting for you guys to discuss these buffoons, their siege of Hamilton Hall, and any other shenanigans and buffoonery from last night that we didn't cover in the video, but that you know from checking the news happened this week in DUMBmocracy. Whew.
All views and opinions expressed here are not necessarily of the mainstream media and may offend some listeners. It's called political buffoonery.